We've got some breaking news. Cineworld preparing to file for bankruptcy.
Sorry, I'm running against time because they turned the music off, but only for 10 minutes.
I need you to take a step back and pull yourself together.
Is this the end of cinema? Will the doors of this cinema close? Cineworld, all our cinemas, in fact, are in trouble. Cineworld is a Hertfordshire homegrown, hands-down global success story. The company started here in Stevenage in 1996, and it might all be over. People just aren't going to the movies. The big chains have big debt, and cinemas are closing. This is Cineworld in Stevenage. Cineworld is the second largest chain of cinemas in the world after AMC. They have 9,139 screens, 747 cinemas in 10 countries. They employ 45,000 people, 5,000 in the UK, 20,000 over in the States. The doors to this cinema and every Cineworld cinema in the world could be closed for good. And soon. The death of cinema isn't because of Netflix or YouTube or because movies are a bit rubbish. It ain't helping, but it's not the cause. Not really. So what's killing cinema?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. Then why are we...
COVID.
Not shutting this movie down!
You know.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus, coronavirus.
On Hollywood Boulevard tonight, an eerie silence. Like most of Hollywood, it's gone dark thanks to the coronavirus.
Cinema got the snuffles and it's struggling to recover. You see, on March the 17th, 2020, Cineworld closed its doors because of the pandemic. At the time, Cineworld blamed the Bond movie No Time to Die. That wasn't really fair, though. The release date was put back over and over. The flick that killed Daniel Craig nearly killed Cineworld and nearly killed the studio that made it, too.
Where's 007?
It was a chicken and egg thing. Warner's couldn't release Bond 25 because the cinemas were closed. The cinemas couldn't open because there were no movies to show. But really, it was the pandemic that was to blame. We were told to stay at home, and we did. Cineworld reopened in May 2021, and for a while everything looked great. No Time to Die was released in October. The UK loves a Bond movie, and they always do well here. UK cinema revenues shot up to 127%. In December, Spider-Man No Way Home came out, and Cineworld's global revenues were looking great, 88%. Cineworld was saved, Warner's was saved, everything was looking great on the surface, but when you took a look under the bonnet, things were not good.
Why would I betray you?
We all have our secrets.
There was a problem, and that problem was debt. Cineworld were borrowing money to upgrade their cinemas and open new locations. In 2020, Cineworld made a loss of 1.7 billion. In 21, things were better, but it was still a loss of 430 million pounds. Money was coming in, movies were doing well, audiences were coming back, but crucially, the number of people going to movies was lower than expected. By August 2022, Cineworld was this close to bankruptcy.
Cineworld shares sinking after the company said it would file for administration in the UK.
But over in the States in September, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Cineworld had debts in 2022 of around £6.9 billion. If you'd bought £100 worth of Cineworld shares before the pandemic, your shares now would be worth 50p.
A car crash, but in slow motion.
This isn't mismanagement. Cinema audiences were declining before the pandemic. COVID accelerated what was already happening. The pandemic was killing cinema. With everybody stuck at home, it was a boom time for Netflix. Here's the killer. Cineworld did the right thing. Very sensibly, they started looking for a buyer, and that's when they realized they had a very serious problem. They scoured the planet looking for someone, anyone to buy them. nothing. No one wants to buy a cinema, let alone a massive cinema chain. In April of 2023, Cineworld announced they couldn't find anyone to buy the business, and the stock price fell another 30%. And it's not just Cineworld. The problem is industry-wide. View Cinemas were taken over by its own lenders for restructuring in July of 2022. They had debts of £700 million. AMC has all the same problems. They ain't making money. AMC is already closing Odeon cinemas here in the UK.
The world is arming faster than we can respond.
It looks bad. Cinema has long COVID. Your viewing habits, my viewing habits have changed. We're watching movies at home on the sofa and we're allowing cinema to die. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Please, I want to be wrong. But this could be it. This could be the end of cinema. In any good movie, just when you think all hope is lost, the hero lying flat on the ground, battered and beaten, then he struggles to his feet. He always does. Cinema has survived much worse. Cinema has grit and determination. It's down, but it's not out. Not yet. Get ready for the third act. This isn't cinema's first pandemic even. In 1918, Spanish flu closed cinemas for months. Cinemas had been dirty flea pits. To get people back in through the doors, cinemas were cleaned. They had usherettes in smart uniforms. Independent theatres were consolidated into big national chains. And the movies changed too. That crisis led to the creation of the Hollywood studio system. Instead of showing a dizzying variety of cheap independent shorts, newly merged studios like Paramount and MGM rose to the challenge and introduced something new: the big budget feature film. Spectacular main events with big actors who were carefully moulded into superstars. And boy, did it work. For the next 30 years, people went to the pictures 3 or 4 times a week to see Bela Lugosi, Gary Cooper, Jimmy Cagney. Then came cinema's greatest challenge: television. Cinema survived that crisis too. In the 1950s, people stayed home watching television for free with a TV dinner on their lap. Just like today, the studios and cinemas were in big trouble. Profits fell off a cliff. The answer then was a wider aspect ratio, a bigger picture, colour, better sound. Movies were made to make TV look small and cheap. It was the era of epics like Ben-Hur, Spartacus, Cleopatra. Cinema delivered a grand spectacle that made TV look paltry. All singing, all dancing, spectacular musicals. Oklahoma, Guys and Dolls, singing in the rain. And you could only see them at the theatre. It was decades before those movies were shown on TV, and Hollywood was smart too. It sold its back catalogue to TV and made money out of celluloid that had been sitting on the shelf, gathering dust for decades. Cinema's biggest problem, though, came in the 1980s. Home video. You could watch a movie on the sofa at home, and once again, Hollywood rose to the challenge. They embraced the new technology, cashed in and found a way to get bums back on seats. Hollywood sold that back catalogue directly to the consumer on videotape. To get people back into the cinema, they invented a new type of cinema, the blockbuster. Tentpole pictures that you queued around the block to see. This time, with merchandising to make even more money. Without home video, we wouldn't have seen Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, and of course, Star Wars. Hollywood is full of smart people who now need to find a way to save cinema yet again. They know their history and they're already doing it. Sorry, I'm running against time because they turned the music off, but only for 10 minutes. Taking a lesson from the 1920s, cinemas have been upgraded. The seats are better. We have air conditioning. The food and drink are better. Purpose-built multiplexes with easy parking. Just like the 1950s, cinema quality is improving now as well. This cinema has 2 huge IMAX theatres. Cinemas now have bigger screens and better sound than you could possibly have at home. Just like the 1980s, if you can't beat streaming services, Join them. Disney, Paramount, all the big studios have their own streaming platforms. You can pay Cineworld a subscription every month and see as many movies as you want.
I'm going back in.
The big studios have responded too, but maybe it's not enough. Some movies are co-productions made hand in hand with the streaming services. Marvel superhero movies compete with box set TV shows having storylines that span across dozens of movies. That all worked for a while, but big Hollywood studios need to do more. They need to find a way to get us back into the cinema. In my opinion, this time they need to do something radical. What's that? Yeah. Well, yeah, all the movies, well, you'll hear in a second. I'll explain. Listen to this bit. It's time to change the business model. Cinema still uses the same business model they used 100 years ago. They don't make money from the movies. When you buy a ticket at a cinema like this, the money goes to the movie maker, not the cinema. They make nothing. Nothing. On the opening weekend and sometimes for weeks afterwards. That's why opening box office numbers are so important. There is a sliding scale. The longer the cinema shows the movie, the bigger their cut of the ticket price. After 2 weeks of showing a movie, the cinema might be keeping 10%. That's not enough. Make sense? Make sense? Yeah. They don't get any money. That $12.99 opening weekend all goes to the distributor and the movie company. They get nothing. It's all going to Paramount this weekend. In theory, it slides slowly up to 45%, but in reality, it never gets there. Movies transfer to TV way too quickly. Cinemas like this make their money from popcorn, sweets, and drinks. That's not a sustainable model. It's got to change. Studios and distributors are going to have to give cinemas a bigger cut, and they will. Cinema and Hollywood need each other to survive. In the past, Hollywood has taken a crisis and turned it into a golden age. They'll do it again. How do I know? Because we love the movies. We love an underdog story, and we love a sequel. This doesn't have to be the end of cinema. It can be a new beginning, a new era, a new hope, but it could take time. This is Cineworld in Stevenage. It's my local. It's a brilliant cinema. It's comfortable. It's clean. The staff are lovely. The screens are huge. The sound is perfect. There's a cinema near you and it's just as good. Cinemas borrowed money to make cinemas better. They did their bit. Now it's time for Hollywood to step up. The bottom line is simple. If you want cinema to survive, you've got to bring your friends and family to cinemas like this one. Buy a ticket, buy popcorn, buy a drink, and buy cinema the time it needs to survive. This is the end of the video, but it doesn't have to be the end of cinema. Goodbye. Subscribe.
See you at the cinema. I hope to see you here soon.
We'll see you soon.
Guess I'll see you in the movies.
We'll see you at the movies.
The flick that nearly killed off Daniel Craig, it really did kill off Daniel Craig. He definitely died in that movie. What are you talking about?